For me, pursuing a diagnosis for autism was just a way to kind of understand myself better as a person, not to feel lost or alone in the world, and to just simply be able to just simply understand and grow better as a person.
So for a lot of people, just getting professional validation of what they already know is really important. Some diagnosis processes are quite in-depth.
Diagnoses are useful. Any diagnosis is useful if you're struggling in some area of your life, and that provides an explanation for that struggle and an opportunity for you then to find some pathways to make improvements in your own personal life.
Pursuing a diagnosis is incredibly helpful in helping you understand more about yourself. For myself personally, prior to getting a diagnosis, I felt the need to learn a bit more about what autism was, and through that diagnostic process it helped me understand more of why I did things a certain way and helped me understand it's okay to be different in what I was doing and perceiving to the world around me.
Getting the actual diagnosis, finally getting it, was a relief, and then getting the actual documentation that said, you know, you are autistic, you have all these things, was a relief. I feel like physically I was relieved. I never felt that sensation before.
Getting a full assessment can really help with the self-awareness process of understanding why I've been struggling with so many things. And also it shows you that you're actually really good at some of the things that you never realized how much above the curve you were. Maybe it's your IQ, maybe it's your visual memory, all of these things that we just assume that other people have the same experience as us. And sometimes doing these kind of assessments shows us in no uncertain terms that yes, I'm not making it up. My experience is actually significantly different to everyone around me.
At the end of the day, pursuing a diagnosis, it's a personal decision at the end of the day, because yes, you've got to consider the pros and cons. So the cons could be, yes, it could be a cost to pursue a lengthy assessment process, but then the pro is then you've got a real professional report that can validate a lot of things, and that sort of professional report can open doors for NDIS funding or other sorts of supports that, you know, not going through that process may do.
I think from the perspective of anyone, whether it's an autism diagnosis or any sort of diagnosis, as an adult, if you feel somehow things are not working for you, you've got some sort of difficulties that are impinging on your capacity to lead a full life in some way, that you need to find out what it is, because it provides an explanation for you as a person, and it helps you devise ways to move forward and get the supports that you need to get to live your life maximally.
So when it started, I'd always suspected something was a bit off, because I'd always acted very strangely in certain social situations, but then very charismatically in others. So it's very difficult to pick out.
Some of the barriers that I experienced in pursuing a diagnosis was initially, for myself, and I know for many women, was misdiagnosis. Autistic women also experienced a misdiagnosis maybe of a mood disorder. So it becomes very difficult in getting the correct diagnosis.
Looking at what's being published in the adult literature, some people end up with a diagnosis because they've had a mental health problem. Mental health problems commonly co-occur in autistic people across the lifespan. The contribution of their autism to this mental health problem hasn't been recognised, and therefore the treatment that they're getting for that mental health problem may not be optimal, and they'll go searching for explanations.
When you get to that pathway, which is usually after many years, and late diagnosis, especially for women, is understanding the differences and having a clinician that actually understands autism and understanding how it is expressed, especially in adults, because it can be different from children. Over the years, adults have learnt to mask and hide some of their traits and how they appear in society because they want to fit in. So it does make it very difficult in getting that diagnosis and having someone that actually truly understands autism and what it is in an adult.
The biggest con of getting a diagnosis, I would say, is the cost of it. You know, there are plenty of centres that offer a comprehensive diagnosis, but it might be thousands of dollars. So if your finances, your budget don't allow you to spend that much amount of money on it, that could be a real barrier to getting that diagnosis. there's also the trickiness of trying to find the right professionals who understand. For example, someone like me as an autistic woman, this is actually a diagnosis you can get because there's a lot of healthcare professionals who still believe that autism is a male problem or a male thing, and you need to find the right healthcare professional, or I should say like a psychologist or psychiatrist who actually understands how autism presents in women as well. I think pursuing diagnosis of autism is important from a case of like self-validation, that this is just something about yourself. You're a different person in a sense, in a good way. And you've got a condition called autism that may come with some challenges, such as sensory sensitivity, such as struggles with social cues, but actually it also comes with a lot of different gifts as well. Attention to detail, just a different way of looking at things.
My analogy for this is like a driver's license. Sometimes, if I walk into a bank and I say, "Hi, my name's Paul," they're going to say, "That's great. Can can I see some ID, please?" Whereas if I'm just introducing myself at a work function or at a social event, no one's going to need to see my official documentation. Sometimes having official documentation is necessary, whether that might be integration with the government or health services, but for the most part, it's not really necessary to engage with the community and learn about your own autism and what that means for you. And even seeking support, you don't always need an official diagnosis to seek support, but sometimes having that backed up in a piece of paper, official ID, like my driver's license or my passport, can be really helpful.
It's funny because, self-diagnosis might feel good, but I think it sort of goes back down to if you just go through the process and you just understand as much as yourself as possible with like a professional who understands you and also understands neurodiversity as well, doesn't see it necessarily as a medical condition. It has challenges, but it's also got strengths. The more knowledge you have, the more empowered you feel, I suppose, as a person.